This is Towanna Freeman with the Black Coaches Network. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of BLC TV. Today's guest is a professor, a public speaker. He is an entrepreneur, and he's an author of a book that is connecting the community like never before. It's a fantastic idea that I respect, and I just had to have him on. But I want you to know that he is one of the speakers within the Young Black Mind Speakers Bureau. So I am speaking no other than Dr. Cleamon Moorer. And Dr. Moorer, thank you for joining us on Black Coaches.
Oh, thank you for having me, Towanna. The pleasure is all mine.
So you are a very engaging professor. Your students will carry a banner and just promote you without you doing anything. They will testify to the fact that you are a man of your word, a man of character. You are very engaging. You're committed to your to the kids or to young adults, because you teach. Obviously, you're a professor. You teach at the collegiate level, so you are committed at all levels of education.
Yes.
When you first started on the path of education, your book talks about the fact that you were basically you failed out of college.
Yes.
It's just be frank. You failed college the first round. And so for you to have the passion you have about education today, there had to have been something that happened in your life while you were fighting against the idea of education, or something was working against you at that point. Tell us a little bit about what it was that was causing you to fight against it so hard.
Thank you so much, Towanna. I learned early on during that process in undergrad that ecosystems are very important. And I didn't know how to define or describe an ecosystem on the front end. Whenever I was in the dormitory as a freshman, I saw that students were grouped in interesting ways. In a lot of cases, students could be grouped by ethnicity. Students could be grouped by the city or state that they grew up in, even by discipline. And that's what you see in a freshman dorm. After freshman year, you see where students, in a lot of cases, they pledge various fraternities and sororities, and you have all of these groupings. But within the groupings, I was curious about the ecosystem. Like, who are the pillars of these various communities? Who are the chairs of various honor societies? Who are the advisors? Who are the mentors? Who are the corporate liaisons that help to get students placed into their careers? And that's what I saw present. And then I went back to say, well, what about my ecosystem in high school? What helped me at King High on the east side of Detroit? And who helped me there? Who was in the community that either served as a positive force or a negative force? Inside my own household, the role of my parents and my older brother. So I said, ecosystem is something, it's big, and a lot of your success could be contingent upon the ecosystem that you're part of or that you create. So I saw obstacles in my ecosystem. I saw that in the dormitory unit that I was in, we had a way of studying where we studied independently. We didn't understand why groups of guys would go off somewhere and study, and why they would do so well versus us. I even saw in my cooperative experiences working at General Motors that was an ecosystem of itself. And being a loner did not or would not set me up for success. And only sticking to one particular group on one particular basis, that wouldn't set me up either. So I said, wow, if students could understand that early on, the importance of ecosystems and contributing to their ecosystem, finding mentors, making those connections, presenting themselves at their very best, even when they feel their worst, even if you feel disenfranchised, even if you feel as though your zip code does not predict success for you, how do you change that and how do you alter it? So the idea of growing up in Detroit and traveling to Oakland County to serve as an intern, at General Motors at 17 and a half, I knew that I was on a different track. Unfortunately, when you know you're on a different track, everyone isn't always receptive to you. Um, a lot of people don't dedicate, or they won't attribute hard work to where you are. There's various stereotypes that you face. So it was a gamut of that, where you're battling with outside forces and you're also battling with your self-concept. Like, well, who am I really supposed to be based upon where I came from and
So
what
you,
I aspire to be?
so let me ask you, did you unplug because of that? Did you disconnect yourself because you're very intelligent? We know you have the intelligence and the capacity to compete.
Yes,
You're majoring in engineering, so we already
yes,
know what is required of you educationally to even get to that major.
yes, yes.
So
Mm,
you unplugged, you completely
I did.
disconnected yourself. So you were a loner, yes, but you
Right.
rejected some of the
Yes,
environment. So
yes.
your decision
Hmm.
to unplug completely
Yes,
competed against your ability to commit yourself to the level of education.
definitely, definitely, Tawana.
Okay. Wow.
Yes,
Wow, wow,
yes,
wow. That is powerful. And the reason why I think that our listeners will absolutely understand this, if you have a young person in your life, whether they're college age, high school age, or not, you really want to connect with Dr. Moore. The reason
yes,
why is because what he has explained is a journeyman's um, understanding of college. A lot
yes,
of parents you may be watching, you may not have a clue what college is like freshman year, sophomore year. It doesn't even matter what year. You may not even understand outside of my child needs to apply. But what he just gave you was the system that's in place, no matter what
yes,
your background is. It's the system that is
yes.
already in place that is welcoming your child, your loved one at the door day one. And he
Yes.
described to you the things that could potentially hinder them from success. So, by exposing that, Dr. Moore, you are now positioning parents to be able to help support their children differently. It's not even
Absolutely.
about how much your tuition is and being able to afford the
No,
tuition, the scholarships.
no,
It's not that. It is a
no.
complete, like you said, it's the ecosystem surrounding
No,
that environment. Okay.
absolutely.
I
Yes.
love that. Okay, and then we're gonna have to get creative and on how we can take that information
Yes.
and transform it yet again so that more people can
Okay.
get that. We'll talk about that
Perfect.
later. But so
Yes.
you have this fantastic book. You wrote it. It's your memoir. It's basically your the story that you talk about from the hardship story and all the different steps you take to get to a place of success.
Yes.
But the unique thing that you did, because we can get the book, we can read the book and learn that part of you. But what
Hmm.
you did that I absolutely am completely connected with is that you took your book and you wrapped a scholarship around your book. Tell us
Yes.
about how you came up with that idea and the purpose for that.
Okay. Thank you, Tawana. Well, the From Failure to Promise memoir, as you noted, it's a story. It gives readers a glimpse shot of a worst to first type of story. And in some cases, people view that as a fairy tale. How could you be at the worst point in life and then get to what you consider to be a very high point? And what were the steps that you took? Who helped you? What were some of the obstacles that you faced then, and some of the obstacles you face now? So if you write a story or you have a product of any type, it has to connect with individuals. Because in a lot of cases, people reach a so what moment about what you write or what you try to convey. So I wanted it to connect with people in a sense that it's not just my story, but it's possibly your story as well. It's a number of people's story who has been successful in any walk of life, but face some challenges. So I wanted to move people past the so what piece of you've done well, so what does that have to do with me? I wanted to encourage others to find out that they could also do well, not simply by being inspired by a story, but being able to tell me their story. So share stories with me about some of their challenges. And the essay contest my target audience are young people, college students. So I wanted to connect with them in a way that they are incentivized. So not only read a story of interest to them, but perhaps compete to win scholarship dollars as well.
Okay, and so how long have you had the scholarship connected to From Faith to Promise?
Yeah, so going back to 2011 now, uh, we started the contest at the end of 2010.
Okay.
And then in 2011, we also added educators on board. So we started a K through 12 educators grant based on From Failure to Promise as well.
Okay, and now
Yes.
there is a foundation. Let's introduce the foundation so people can know where they can find you online as far as your nonprofit is concerned. What is the URL for your
Yes.
nonprofit?
Okay. Well, we're Dr. Seymour and Associates Incorporated. Our goal is to inspire students as well as educators to reach great promise that results in improved global citizenship. So when you go back to the scholarship contest, for example, that's one of the activities of the foundation. Students answer the question how the book impacts their pursuit of success and promise. But secondly, once they reach their destined promise, what is their commitment to improve the lives of others? So we tie in that altruistic piece into that discussion, that it's not only important to reach your goal, but what are you going to do for others once you get there? And as for educators, educators' role is vital in preparing our students, and they don't always get the resources that they need in the classroom. So we offer stipends to them as well. So those are two legs of the foundation. The last two legs, we do mentoring, so virtual mentoring. We have a virtual network titled mymentorwasme.net, because there's someone coming up that was once a Towanna Freeman. There's someone coming up that was once a Lauren Anderson and a Cleamon Moorer. So we try to create a virtual network where students can get online and find people that are like similar to them, or they believe we're similar to them. And then the fourth leg of what we do, we title it the Humanity Agenda. We have a goal to help organizations as well as governments to cooperatively eradicate genocide. So those are the four legs of what we do: scholarships, grants, virtual mentoring, as well as the Humanity Agenda.
You are an entrepreneur.
Yes.
In addition to being an educator, you have multiple layers of give back. So outside of your nonprofit, outside of you being an educator, you give back as an entrepreneur. We know,
Yes.
you and I both know, that being an entrepreneur in the United States, or even just in this global economy, you know the value of being an entrepreneur. So
Certainly.
you understand the idea of being creative. You understand the idea of being in charge of your own, economic
Yes.
structure, your products and services. So tell me about the vision you had about creating the consulting firm, and when did that basically develop?
Yes. Okay. So I was a global service executive at AT&T. So we'll fast forward. So we obviously got from failure to promise in a career manner. So speaking of entrepreneurship, every business uses four primary resources.
Yes.
Whether you're making tires or tacos, humans, information, capital, and finances.
Right.
So at AT&T, I saw where, as a manager or an executive in a company, you're using established resources that are in place, and you try to build upon those, you manipulate them so that the company reaches its own goals. As an executive in a firm, unfortunately, your goals aren't always the same as the executive team's goals because you are an employee of them. I love freedom. I can't monetize autonomy to choose what to do, when to do it, and how to do it to achieve goals that don't only benefit shareholders, but benefit stakeholders all around you. So for me, the entrepreneur piece picked up SBC had acquired Ameritech. They were sending service execs to Texas. And I was in position to take a package because I looked at the scenario of, if they want me to go to Texas today, where will it be tomorrow? It could be Singapore tomorrow. It could be, Taiwan in 2 weeks. If I'm going to Singapore, Taiwan, or Malaysia, I should have choice and freedom to do that as connected to my own personal goals. So I took a package and I started consulting clients of AT&T, but not competitively with phone service, but on the intangibles, going back to ecosystems, but ecosystems within an organization. So team building, process management, business redesign, coaching, succession planning. And I was able to leverage. And that's another important thing about career development and entrepreneurship. Nothing goes in vain. So from the time that I spent as an intern to an engineer to a service exec, I was able to leverage the knowledge, the skills, and the contacts at the companies. So I served Merrill Lynch, Aon Corporation, Zurich, North America, and the Boeing transition from Seattle to Chicago. Those are big names of Fortune 100 companies. Underneath the surface are managers and technicians, and those are the points of contact that you make in your career.
Why I'm here is because I need people like you to share the things that make you successful, the things that make you, what makes you think about the problems that need to be solved in your own space, in your world, the people that you serve. And so what I appreciate about you, Dr. Moorer, is that you are so many layers to you, and being a successful businessman, that's expected. But for a lot of people who are out here trying to achieve different levels of success, your level of success may not look like anyone else's. And we need to stop trying to, I guess, create the measuring stick and say, okay, I want to be just like Dr. Moorer. That there's no need to do a one-for-one stare and compare to a Dr. Moorer. What you do is you take the things that Dr. Moorer has said and you literally take notes or do whatever it is that works for you. The thing that jumped out the most for you. What did he say that just absolutely said, that's it for me? When he was talking a minute ago about solving the problems and connecting community, that may have resonated. Now he's talking about being an entrepreneur and being able to deliver at a corporate level the same principles in a corporate environment as an entrepreneur, being in control of his destiny. If that resonated with you, then go with that. But don't try to take the whole pie. Just take a piece. So Dr. Moorer, are you still at Dominican?
Well, interesting enough, Towanna, I can let that cat out the bag. Yes, I recently received a promotion from assistant professor to associate professor at Dominican. I accepted the promotion, but I've humbly resigned from Dominican University effective the end of this academic year. I have accepted a position at my alma mater, Kettering University. So the same university that I flunked out of, I will, yes. So,
You're going to go back.
I'm going to go back as a professor.
Unbelievable story.
Yes. So this is a testament to the power of faith, the power of God, of the human spirit, I must say. And it helps me to live out the "my mentor was me" concept, because as I have young engineers in class, young students studying math and applied mathematics, science, and business, they'll be able to look at me and say, you know what, my mentor was me. So the irony of that is simply divine. In an area such as Flint, Michigan, where I believe Forbes magazine has ranked it one of the worst places to live, we're not discouraged by that at all. In fact, I believe that you go where the work needs to be done.
Absolutely.
There's a long line of people that want to go to Southern California. There's a long line of that. But in terms of the talent and the energy and the resources and knowledge that I have, it's best suited to be used in a community that needs it the most. So I'm honored.
The reason why that is so phenomenal. Yes, you're a man of faith. You walk, according to biblical principles. You also support the community and the students that you serve from that platform, which completely strengthens your ability to transfer knowledge. I mean, because again, when you have such a strong faith, you understand that as a servant,
Yes,
that's what it's about. It's your ability, and so many of our guests, I believe that is the common thread with most of our guests. And I think that that's what makes us BLC so unique, is the fact that people have understood the concept, the understanding, the definition of being a servant.
absolutely.
Being able to serve a community that is in need, being able to identify the place where God has planted you and doing your work in that place. Dr. Moore, what's next for you? Because
Next for me, we're going to re-release From Failure to Promise next year, titled, of course, From Failure to Promise 360, because we're going full circle. We are growing the scholarship endowment. So next year, we will be in position to offer a $100,000 scholarship. So there'll be tiers to it, but it'll be renewable every year, so at $25,000 a year. We've increased our educators grant fund. Our first award was made last year, so we're on track this year to make 4 awards to educators in the U.S. Next year, 8 awards, and by 2015, we want to be able to make monthly stipends of $1,000. So 12 stipends a year by 2015. So we're growing in that area. As for research on genocide eradication, headed to Rwanda in September of this year. So we're going to meet with educators, meet with some government officials and some business owners to discuss the 1994 genocidal war and the role that all of those entities played in moving and advancing the country forward.
wow.
And yes, and see if that can serve as an example for genocidal wars events in Darfur currently.
Right.
So we're so busy.
You to mention
Yes.
you're a father. You're a father of what,
Yes.
4, 3, 4? How many kids do you have?
We have been blessed. My lovely wife Nicole and we've been blessed to be the parents of boys.
How many
I
boys? Say it
4
again.
boys.
4
Yes.
boys.
Yeah, yes, and I often tell people that we have a son for every season, and because there's a birthday that actually falls in each of the 4 seasons. But our youngest is 3, and our oldest will be 13
Oh,
in
fantastic.
December.
Fantastic. Now,
Yes,
now these young men, they're up for a challenge. So I will
yes, and
say that by them having a father like you in their lives, there are so many things that can happen. You can seed into them so much so that they
yeah,
break open,
right.
or you do as the Bible say, you just train them up in the way of the Lord.
That's the
So,
plan. And then what I got one more little tidbit exclusive for you. Okay, I wanted to not as most good parents, we want to make our children's lives easier. But I not only do Nicole and I strive to make their lives somewhat easier than ours, but more meaningful.
right.
And creating or serving as examples for them to not only be what we are, but to exceed what we are and who we are. So part of why I use the name or the moniker Dr. Seymour Moorer is because all of our boys, their first initial of their names is a C. So I wanted to live out and live a life in such a way that is noteworthy. So as they come along, whether they pursue doctorates or not, the name and the legacy and what we're all about is something easier for them to walk into and
Yes.
attempt to fulfill it and surpass it.
Yes, and that's another consistent thing that I've seen with a lot of our male guests who are fathers. They have all committed to establishing a legacy.
Yes.
for their children. And I have consistently heard that, and
Yes.
that's exactly where we want to be, because there's a
Yes.
generation of men, and and our fathers or our grandfathers,
Yes.
who came before us, who worked extremely hard,
Yes.
whether they were sharecroppers, where they were fortunate enough to, were a part of the Industrial Revolution when living in the North. No matter where they started, they wanted to leave a legacy. Whether they
Yes,
were
indeed.
capable of doing it or not, the fact still remains, it was in their hearts to do that. And then we
Amen. That's
lost that passion. We lost that passion at some point
yes.
where the young men of the households, lost their way. And a
Yes.
lot of them no longer understood the value of establishing legacy. They, for whatever
Yes.
reason, they disconnected themselves from that. But now there's
Yes.
a new generation
Yes, it
of
is.
men who are proud, who stand firm in their faith, and who are now the fathers of some bright young men and women where their futures are bright. We don't get in the business of predicting, what
No.
our children will be, but we
No.
do establish that foundation, and we do train them up, and we do create opportunity for them. We create an environment of nurturing, and we create as much of a loving environment wrapped around a community that cares for them just as much as you do. And
Yes,
that's what I
indeed.
respect about you and so many others that
Yeah.
have come to us. And I encourage you to continue. I know there's so much work for you to do, and you and your
Yes.
wife, are committed to each other, and you guys are doing great. And I appreciate you for being committed in this race that we're running
Certainly.
every day. Thank you
Yeah,
so much.
absolutely. Thank you, Towanna. The pleasure is mine. Thank